All right, hey guys, it's me. It's Wednesday, Thursday. We're in the middle of our third week, and this meeting or video kind of brings us some new information. So we now know that we will not be back together for the rest of the year, which is that's hard for a lot of us in a lot of ways. We're not going to get to connect with each other, see friends, say bye to your teachers. Um, just a lot of different things. So, just an encouragement: be patient with yourself. It is okay to mourn this, for lack of a better term, loss. There are certainly some good things about it. In my mind, I'm trying to focus on the positive, but there are certainly some things to mourn the loss of. Anyway, so I just want to share a few thoughts with you, and then I'm going to give you a very important update on Algebra 1 and how I'm moving forward with grades. So make sure that you tune in and you're paying attention. Okay, let me share these thoughts. All right, so start your day with gratitude. All right, hopefully you were spending a lot of alone time. If you're not, please consider doing that. Again, now is the time to be alone in terms of only spending time with your immediate family. That would really help um, everyone. So I know that may be hard, but that's a gift that you can offer those around you and your community and beyond. So please do that. Start your day with gratitude. Again, I think with this long-term grounding at home, hopefully that all of us are engaged in, it's easy to get negative. I think that's kind of a human characteristic, one of our flaws. But I think that we have the ability to grow. So I want to challenge you to start your day with gratitude, right? Just spend some time thinking about what you have in your life that is a really good thing and what you should be thankful for. So this is basically Thankful Thursday. Turn to thankful every day. All right, second thing I want to encourage you, and a lot of this is coming from an article I read um, that I've been really convicted by. And I'll mention more of that in a moment. Limit news. All right, there are 1,000 resources out there with 1,000 different opinions. So find a time, maybe each day that you read this, or maybe every couple of days where you kind of re-engage the coronavirus. But again, you should be in isolation. That's the one thing that everyone is saying: stay away from people, at least physically. So limit the news. Some of us might be more prone to being overwhelmed by this and saddened. So I know that we go on news fast in my house. My wife specifically, I think she benefits a lot from that. Intentionally connect. All right. So I say intentionally because it's really easy to feel like you're connecting with people via social media, via the different apps that we have. But let's be honest, you really don't know the heart of someone or what they're all about based on a little TikTok video or Snapchat story. Those things are not intimacy, and we need intimacy with each other. So intentionally connect, pick up the phone, call someone, FaceTime them, look them in the eyes, or whatever your version of FaceTime is. There is so much value in that, right? Seeing their awkward smile since you haven't seen them in weeks, maybe seeing them cry, hearing in their voice the sadness or the excitement to hear your voice, whatever. Intentionally connect, right? And that goes in your home as well. I think it's easy to just coexist in your family, but have a conversation with your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister. Go on walks with them. I put exercise over here because this should be it's this exercise your body, but then exercise your mind, your spirit, your soul, all these kind of things. Super important. All right, avoid escapist behavior. Limit your screen time. Okay. I'm going to read you something really fast. Feel free to fast forward this. I don't think you should, but you're welcome to. When I read this part, I was really convicted by every single one of these. So it says, limit screen time and escapist behaviors. It will be very easy to indulge in escapist behaviors. Find ways to limit your intake of things like alcohol. None of you should drink because you're not old enough. Let's be honest. Social media, television, sugar, staying up late. All right. A lot of those probably hit home with you. So I think there's a lot of value in it. I didn't really see it as an escapist behavior until I stopped and thought about it for a moment. All right. Some of the time we tend to try to avoid uncomfortable feelings, whether it's silence or struggle we're having. But don't fully engage, right? Again, schedule this kind of stuff, but don't binge everything, right? You've got way too much schoolwork to do and way too much growing up to do to give it all to the screen. It doesn't deserve that much of you. And then lastly, remember, you're not alone. I think so many of us can feel like we're alone. My wife and I reflect pretty much daily on this. But we have access to so many good things, and you're not alone, right? Whether you're in your house alone or not, we're all in this together. Okay, so just remember that. All right, enough of that. I'm going to jump up here, and we're going to dive into algebra. I'm going to move my face. So bye, everybody. Great to see you. Please watch the lesson. I'm not going to be on here too long. I'm going to shorten some things from this point forward. But great to see you all. I hope you're well. Okay, and I look forward to seeing you when I do. That'll be a good day. All right, now just my voice. All right, so take a look at the screen. Announcements. All right, I am doing this to make my life easier and hopefully make yours easier. But all retake assignments all assignments must be made up by a retake. All right, there is no more going back and completing an old assignment. One, because I'm done receiving all of those emails. There have been too many back and forths. It's just way too much to keep track of. And some of you are having a hard time knowing what's what. So we're going to skip all that, and I'm going to show you in a minute. I'm going to create a tab on Classroom that's just titled Retake, right? If you're missing an assignment in the gradebook, you go grab it out of the retake topic area in Classroom and redo it and submit it there, and then I can grade it in one spot. No more you chasing it down, me chasing it down. We're done with that, okay? So I wrote here assignment 7.2, but this is all assignments, right? From the very first one, okay, to the one that we are doing today that I'll give you at the end of class or at the end of this video, okay? So all assignments. This is huge. Some of you are going to email me, and I'm going to just simply write back, do the retake, okay? I'm not going back to grade anymore. So if you have not completed and gotten a grade for any assignment so far, you need to go take the retake, okay? Or wait for me to finish grading, okay? But if it has an N in there, that means you did not turn it in, okay? So all assignments are subject to retake, all right? This is the only place I'm going to look from here on out, all right? So I'm making this video on Tuesday night, April 7th, all right? I'm only going to take retakes if you don't meet the deadline, okay? Which is always the next morning by 8 a.m. Everybody clear on that? Okay, so attendance, it's a hard deadline, right? If you have not taken the attendance ticket or attendance check or whatever it's called by 8 a.m. the next day after your scheduled class day, you will not be counted as present, okay? We've just got to set some things in place that are hard and fast. That way we don't have these conversations that linger for the next month and a half, all right? Because we're in this together until May 26th, all right? So please be in. All right, again, encourage other people. But if you have not gotten a grade, meaning you have an N, right, then you need to go take the retake from assignment 7.1 all the way to 7.3, part 3, which is what you're getting today. Okay? All right, this is huge. If your friends are not watching this video, please tell them, watch this video, because they're going to be emailing me. Hey, why do I not have a grade? I turned that in. I'm not looking at anything that has already been returned, right? Nothing. Retakes only from here on out, okay? And here's how it's going to work. Now, this week on Friday, all right, I'm going to post 7.1. I'm going to go ahead and write that up here. 7.2, 7.2, number 2, 7.3, part 1, part 2, and part 3, right? So retakes, they will always be due Friday, 1 week later. After this 1 week deadline from the day it's posted for you, there is no getting a grade, substituted, okay? No grade substitutes. So I'm going to post all of these on Friday. Some of you who have not done any assignments, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with the one that was due the last couple of days. And then the one we're getting today is the 6th assignment. Some of you will have 6 retakes to do starting Friday, and they will be due 1 week later, okay? So please pay attention to that. I'll shoot out an email with this information. All right, let's jump in to lesson 7.3, part 3. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to put the actual lesson paper up, and then I'm going to use notebook paper. Several people have told me that it's harder to see. All right, but the warm up for today, and then 2 teaching problems. That's all I'm doing right now. All I'm doing. Okay, and then I'm going to give you your assignment. All right. So square root of 252. It says rewrite the following radical in simplest radical form. Remember, that means we're going to have a radical symbol, but then we're hoping to take a square root of some portion of this. All right. So the first thing we're going to review is the perfect squares. All right. The perfect squares are numbers that when we take the square root, they will result in a whole number. So we've got the number 1, the number 4, the number 9, 16, 25, 36, 49. I have to jump over. 49, 64, 81, and 100, right? These are the first 10 perfect squares that we have, all right? We're going to use these to simplify this radical, right? So I'm going to rewrite it here a little bit bigger. So 252, right? If I take the square root of this in the calculator, it will not be a whole number, all right? So I'm going to leave part of this in radical form. All right, so I want to see if this number has any of these as factors, okay? Well, I'm going to do this off to the side. 252 divided by itself is 1. So we know that we have that one. That's easy. Oh, not 251. All right, so 252. We're trying to find factors of 252. Okay. All right, let's do 4 next. So I'm going to just off to the side. I'm going to do 252 divided by 4. It's 63. Okay, that's helpful. 252 divided by now 9 is 28. So 9 times 28. So we have several perfect squares in here, which is great. But we're going to try to get the biggest one. We want to simplify it the most. All right, so 252 divided by 16 is not a whole number, so that's not a factor pair. 252 divided by 25, I'm not going to do because it doesn't end in a 5 or a 0. Next, I'm going to do 36. 252 divided by 36 is 7. That's good. So 7 times, I should have done that this way, 36 and 7. Okay, and this is actually going to be our answer, right? Because this doesn't break down anymore. Okay, so let's rewrite this radical as 36 times 7. And this is all from part 2, right? So part 2 review, that's what we're doing now. All right, so all I did was take this and divide it by my perfect squares. I wanted to see if I could come up with any. I'm going to do one more. Let's just check 252 divided by 49. It's not a whole number, okay? So this is our factor pair, right? And then we have a perfect square right here. Okay, so let's rewrite this as the square root of 36 times the square root of 7. All right. Well, the whole point of dividing by these is because we know the square roots are whole numbers. So square root of 36 is plus or minus 6. And then times the square root of 7. Since that's not a whole number, we're just going to leave it as just that, square root of 7. Okay. So what I did not do in part 2 video was talk about how these square roots, right, have both a positive and a negative value. Okay. So I'm going to jump over here just to remind you. So negative 6 times negative 6 is 36, right? But so is positive 6 times positive 6. So you have to include, again, you have to include this plus or minus, okay? Because this could be positive 6 or it could be negative 6, right? But this is in simplest radical form. All right, to the last part of lesson 7.3, part 3, we're just going to do these two. So I'm going to take these 2 problems and I'm going to write them on notebook paper. So I'm just going to bring it over here, okay? All right, I'm going to write this out. X plus 8 squared equals 54. Okay, that way you can kind of read it a little bit easier. All right, let's read the directions together. It says solve the following equations by taking the square root. That's what we've been doing all of 7.3. Give answers as both an approximation, rounded to the nearest hundredth, and simplest radical form. All right, so we just did an example of simplest radical form. And then we're going to do this approximation, which means we're going to calculate the square root. Okay, so come back over here. The first thing that we learned was that we want to isolate the side that's squared, right? There's no 3 times or anything times or added to or divided by, nothing, right? So it's the square is on the side by itself, so we can take the square root of that and the square root of 54, okay? So anything that's squared, when you take the square root of it, it frees that up to just be the base, is what we call that. And then the square root of 54, I'm just going to leave that as that right now. Okay? So then I want to subtract 8 on both sides, okay? Because we're trying to find out the value of x, okay? So now we've got x equals the square root of 54 minus 8, right? Well, this has a positive and this has a negative, right? So I'm going to write plus or minus, and then I'm going to go calculate that, what the square root of 54 is. So the square root of 54, my calculator is 7.348, blah, 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 blah. But the instructions say to the nearest hundredth, right? So the hundredth is the second number past the decimal. So that was going to be 7.35 minus 8. Now, most of the time we don't do the plus or minus up front, so I'm going to rewrite this. So this is negative 8 plus or minus 7.35. Okay? So I'm going to do this math right here. So this is negative 8, and I'm going to rewrite it in 2 different ways. So negative 8 plus 7.35 and negative 8 minus 7.35. All right, and then we're going to get our 2 different values. Okay, so negative 8 plus 7.35 is, negative 8 plus 7.35 is negative 0.65. So that's one of our solutions. And then negative 8 minus 7.35 is negative 15.35. Okay? All right, so here are our 2 approximate solutions, right? And we should say approximate only because we rounded, right? Because we rounded this number right here, it became an approximation. Okay? So I'm going to write that. It's an approximation because we rounded. And that's where we rounded. All right. So that's a big thing. All right, let's do our next thing. All right, so we already rounded to the nearest hundredth, right? These 2 are to the nearest hundredth. And now we need to do the simplest radical form, okay? So we're going to come back up to this thing. All right, square root of 54. So I'm going to rewrite this up here as x equals negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 54. Okay? So I'm trying to figure out which of my 1, 4, 9, 16, 25 go into 54. Well, I already know that this is 9 times 6. Okay, 9 times 6 is 54. So I'm going to do plus or minus negative 8. I'm just rewriting it, right? And now I can rewrite this as square root of 9 times the square root of 6. Again, my whole purpose was so that I could take the square root of this and it'd be a whole number. Okay, and then I'm going to bring this stuff down. All right, so all we're doing here is what we did on the warm-up. I just added this other piece, this negative 8. All right, so the square root of 9 is 3, but we already had the plus or minus, right? So let's rewrite this as our last thing is negative 8 plus or minus square root of 9, which is that, and then times the square root of 6. All right, so this is the simplest radical form. And then these 2 are our approximations. Okay, so that is this first one. Okay, so feel free to pause the video as many times as you need when you're working the actual assignment. Oh, not that one, sorry. All right, so that is number 2. All right, now let's do number 4, and then I'm going to be done with this particular lesson. All right, I'm going to turn the page so you can have a fresh. All right, so number 4 on the lesson 7.3 part 3 says you've got 3 times the quantity x minus 3. That's the thing that's being squared, plus 2 equals 38. All right, so this is just solving equations. Okay, I've got to get rid of this plus 2. I've got to get rid of this times 3, and then I can take the square root. All right, so you always move, you kind of do inverse operations based on the opposite of PEMDAS. All right, so we're going to subtract 2 from both sides. That leaves us with 3x minus 3 squared equals 36. But I have this 3 I've got to get rid of. Remember, I'm trying to get the squared component or term by itself. So I've got to divide by 3. Those two cancel out. Divide by 3. That leaves us with x minus 3 squared, which is 12. Now I'm to the point where I can take the square root. Again, that's earlier parts of lesson 7.3. So the square root of that term is just the inside, x minus 3. And then the square root of 12, we're going to do this, right? So factors of 12 are 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. All right, so here we see a perfect square. So we're going to use the 3, 4. So square root of 4 times the square root, times 3. And then we can break this down one more time. Square root of 4 times the square root of 3, which is what I just said. I'm going to do this plus 3 at the very end to get rid of it. All right, square root of 4 is positive or negative 2. Square root of 3 is not a whole number, so I'm just going to do the square root of 3 multiplied. Okay. Lastly is this add 3 because we want to know the value of x, right? Where this thing crosses the x-axis, which are solutions. So plus 3. So we will finish this by writing. The constant always goes up front. It's traditionally how it's written. 3 plus or minus 2 square root of 3. All right, so which form is this? Is this the approximation or is this the simplest radical form? Well, there's a radical, which is the square root sign, right? So this is one of our things. And I should have done number 2 this way as well. All right, so this is simplest radical form. Now we just take this and crunch these two numbers. I'm going to write 2 different number sentences. So we're going to do 3 plus 2 square root of 3. And then we're going to find out what that equals. And then we're going to do 3 minus 2 square root of 3. And we're going to find out what that equals. All right, that will give us our 2 approximations. All right, I'm going to come over to my calculator. I'm literally going to put these in. So 3 plus 2 square root 3 equals. It's a really, really long number, but we're rounding to the nearest hundredth. So that would be 6.46. And then I'm going to put this in. The only thing that changes is subtraction, right? Because positive 2 is one of our square roots of 4. Negative 2 is the other. So 3 minus 2 square root 3 is negative 0.46. All right, so here are our 2 approximated solutions. And here is the exact, right? This is the simplest radical form. All right, so this is part 3, just to review. Okay, the warm-up, we broke it down into a factor that's a perfect square times something else so that we can take the square root. Remember, the part I forgot in part 2 of this lesson 7.3 was the positive and negative, right? And this is where we get that from. Okay, so square roots have 2 different things, 2 different answers, a positive version and a negative version. All right, so for the lesson, I'm only giving you 2 of these. Okay, you're welcome to work these others for practice. That's great. All right, and here is your attendance check. All right, here's your attendance check. All right, I am only assigning questions 2 and 3 as your assignment. Okay. So these are the two that you will turn in for you A-dayers on Thursday morning, or at least by Thursday morning. And then for you B-dayers by Friday morning at 8. Okay. So the attendance tickets, there are only two questions I'm assigning, and they're going to be number 2 and number 3. So hopefully you watch this video all the way here and you don't work all of the problems. So I'll show you the assignment real fast. All right. It's right here. Okay. So I'm saving you a whole lot of work. You're welcome. Just trying to make your life easier. All right. But make sure you do these two. I'm only giving you these two problems. Okay. All right, guys. Have a wonderful Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then I am doing a Google Hangout or Meet on Fridays from 1 to 2:30. So you're welcome to stop by, ask math, or not. Just hang out, talk about whatever, shoot the breeze. I just want to see some of your faces. Okay. I know that not everybody can jump on, but I'd love to see you all. All right. Hey, hang in there. We're in this through May 26th, and then we'll get to kind of reconvene next year in the hallways. But be patient with yourself as you process all this, all right? And keep working hard, all right? For those of you who are not finishing your stuff, these shortened assignments should make your life a little easier, but get your stuff done, okay? This is important for where we're headed in the rest of your high school career, all right? So your sophomore through senior year, your math. Algebra 1 is very important. All right, miss you guys. Have a great day. Take care. Bye.